No lies, no distortions, just the facts and the truth about issues that matter. Facts First with Christian Esqueda.
Good evening guys! Welcome to tonight's episode of Facts First. Ako po ang inyong host si Christian Esguerra. Doon po sa mga nakikinig sa atin sa podcast. Kung anong oras man kayo nakikinig ngayon, maraming salamat po sa patuloy na pagsuporta. At para sa araw na ito, meron po tayong pag-uusapan na napakainit na issue. Pumutok po to late last week. Marami pong naging concerned regarding this proposal. Contained po siya sa isang bill, in short, panukalang batas. At ang nangunguna po rito ay yung pinsan ni President Marcos Jr., who is the Speaker of the House of Representatives, si Congressman or House Speaker Ferdinand Martin Romualdez. Pati na po yung anak ng presidente mismo na ang position po sa House, kahit bagitong congressman, ang position po niya is Senior Deputy Majority Leader. So sila po yung dalawa sa mga congressmen na nagpupush po nitong panukalang Sovereign Wealth Fund daw. Ang pangalan nila na ibinigay po dito is Maharlika Wealth Fund. So the worth is 275 billion pesos. Marami po na alarma kasi kahit ang intention supposed on paper ay para makapag-generate ng more revenue, expand yung investment portfolio ng ating bansa para gamitin daw sa mga kasalukuyan development projects. Maraming nag-worry dito po sa proyekto na ito dahil isa po sa mga binanggit na pagkukunan ng pondo bukod sa national government, manggagaling din ng pondo from the GSIS, sa Social Security System, sa Land Bank of the Philippines, doon po sa DBP. Tapos eventually, merong proposal na magkaroon ng ng monthly ng annual contribution. Sabihin maglalagak din ng pondo yung Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. And medyo nawala yung guest natin, no? Pag tatawagin natin siya maya-maya. Okay. Pero nilalatag ko lang muna yung issues kasi marami rin nagtatanong dito, no? Itatakal ba natin tong issue na to? Pag-uusapan natin, syempre, try to suspend judgment muna. Pag-usapan natin kung ano ba yung pros and then yung cons nitong proposed Maharlika uh, Wealth Fund. Kung akma ba ito sa Pilipinas, ito ba talaga yung hubog dapat ng tinatawag nilang Sovereign Wealth Fund? Ano ba yung kailangan nating yung kailangan na meron tayo when you talk about putting up a sovereign wealth fund? Let's say katulad po dun sa ginagawa sa ibang bansa, for example sa Norway. So yun po yung mga pag-uusapan natin ngayong gabi. Tapos try to suspend your judgment first. Tingnan natin kung ano ba yung buti o yung sama na pwedeng maidulot nito. So for this evening, ang makakasama po natin ay ang dating governor po ng Central Bank, si dating ambassador of the Philippines to Washington, si Mr. Jose Cuisia Jr. Magandang gabi po, sir, and thank you for joining us on Facts First.
Magandang gabi, Christian. I hope you can hear me well. Is my
Yeah,
audio
yeah.
okay?
Yeah, much better. Oo. Kala ko nawala kayo kanina. Anyway,
No,
so
I
ang
had to
sabi ko,
move. Kasi unstable yung internet connection. I had to move to another room.
ayun, this one is much better. Sige sir, pag-usapan natin, mainit na issue late last week yung Sovereign Wealth Fund. Tapos doon sa proposal, sa panukalang batas na ang nagli-lead po ay yung House Speaker mismo at saka yung anak ng presidente, ang ipapangalan daw is Maharlika Wealth Fund. Bago natin pag-usapan yung pros and cons, ano ba muna yung Sovereign Wealth Fund? At bakit ba yung ibang mga bansa nag-i-introduce o pumapasok dito sa Sovereign Wealth Fund?
Kasi yung mga bansa na may excess funds, ang tawag nila, either from sales of commodities like oil. For example, Norway, meron silang sovereign wealth fund. Kasi malaki yung excess funds nila from the sales of oil, crude oil.
Mm.
So they set up a sovereign wealth fund to be able to not just get better return, but also to prepare, the future generations by providing them precisely with funds that they can eventually use in the future. No, so yung Singapore, for example, marami din silang excess fund dahil sa malaki export sila. They export much more than they import. So marami silang excess export revenues. So nag-create din sila ng sovereign wealth fund.
Para mas mapalago, no?
Yes,
ano ba yung
to
pinagkaiba ng isang
diversify.
Mm.
diversify their investments to try to get better returns. Kasi pag may sovereign X fund, they can put into private equity, not just the stock market. They can put in hedge fund, they can put in different funds, no? Mas diversified nga yung investments nila.
In short,
But
mas
they're also
malaki yung
taking bigger
opportunity.
risks. They
Yeah,
can
bigger
take
risk.
bigger
Okay.
risks because like the Singapore sovereign wealth fund experienced a huge loss last year. I think in 2020 or 2021,
Mm.
about 170 billion
Mm.
dollar loss. So,
Generally, ano ba
malaki
yung
rin.
ano? Generally, ano po ba yung risk appetite pag pinag-usapan natin sovereign wealth fund? Or baka ano yan, iba-iba yan dahil diversified nga yung
Iba-iba yan.
paglalagakan.
Depending sa gobyerno, they usually sit down with their fund manager to talk about the kind of risk that they're willing to take. And alam mo, even within the fund, they have funds for higher risk investment. They have funds for more safe or safer investments and lower risk investments. So they allocate together with the fund manager. They decide
Mm.
on that.
Okay. Yung dito, yung sa atin, kasi ang binabanggit doon sa panukalang batas, they want to put up a Maharlika Wealth Fund at ang initial pondo dito is 275 billion. By definition ng Sovereign Wealth Fund, ito ba yung hubog talaga nito Maharlika Wealth Fund? Kasi kung binabanggit nyo, dapat may excess or surplus. Mukhang wala tayo nun. At pangalawa, yung
Yung, wala,
intergenerational fund.
wala nga
Oo.
tayong excess funds. Malaki nga utang natin. Our debt to GDP is now 64%. Before the pandemic, it was at 39-40%. So ang laki ng utang natin. Wala tayong excess funds. So why are we going to set up a sovereign wealth fund? That's the first question. So kukuha daw sila sa SSS, GSIS. They cannot touch the funds of the SSS members or even the GSIS members. They have to review the charter of those two government pension funds, and they will see that they cannot touch those funds. In fact,
Mm.
there was a Supreme Court decision that said that the funds of the SSS can be used only to benefit SSS members and not the general public or the rest of the Filipino population. May Supreme Court decision na yan.
Oo. Oo. Yun nga, napaka-basic, no? Yung fiduciary nature ng ating
Uh,
contributions sa SSS for the private employees, no? Tapos yun sa mga
yes,
nagtatrabaho naman sa gobyerno, GSIS. So, dapat pangalagaan ito ng pension fund na ito, no? So, hindi siya pwedeng
correct.
gamitin, kasi yun ang argument, I think, ni former Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio, no? Yung contribution sa
Yes,
SSS at GSIS, hindi mo pwedeng gamitin to benefit the rest of the country, kundi para lang dun sa mga
correct.
contributors. Tama ba?
Yes. That's a Supreme Court decision. And he's just citing that Supreme Court decision.
Mm. Pero
Tama
yun nga.
si Justice Carpio.
Okay, pero tanggalin muna natin kunwari sa legal issues, although it should be a very legal issue, no? Pero assuming na talagang ang intention dito is very noble, they want to diversify the investments, they want to generate more revenues for development projects. Ano ba yung mga nakikita niyong risk in this specific Maharlika Wealth Fund na pinopropose po?
No, kasi nga, when you invest in project financing, for example, mas malaking risk than, say, investing in stock market or in even in infrastructure projects. Kasi dun sa project, you have to have also the expertise to be able to choose the right projects to finance, no? I don't know whether they're going to get that expertise. Of course, they can bring in consultants, they can do that. But I think what is more concerning is the kind of risk that the wealth fund will be taking. So the pension funds cannot be invested in such high risk projects. Then again, it is not allowed by the charter of the SSS and the GSIS. So I don't know how they can justify it. No, even Land Bank and DBP ordinarily would not be making investment like that. So I wonder how they would be able to make use of Land Bank and DBP funds for such high risk investments. No?
How about yung ano, yung wisdom of number one, we don't have surplus, no? Tapos number two,
Yes, that's basic.
to get this started, magpo-pool ng mga resources, equity from the different GFIs. And then eventually, 'di ba, hihinga ng contribution ng BSP. I mean, yung logic or wisdom nun, do you see any?
No, because again, if you take money from DBP, Land Bank, they may not be able to accomplish their mandates that they are supposed. For example, in the case of Development Bank, DBP, they're supposed to invest in developmental projects, projects that will benefit the economy, that will benefit the country, etc. Now, I don't know what type of investments the Maharlika Fund will be coming up with. No, they say that they will also invest in infrastructure. Why not leave it to DBP and Land Bank to continue to make their investments as they have been doing the past years? No, they have done relatively well because both banks are quite stable. They have gotten good returns. The same thing with the SSS and GSIS. They've gotten very good returns on their funds.
Mm.
Why are they saying, unless precisely they want to take much higher risks? And of course, when you take higher risks, you can also make more returns, but you can also lose a ton of money. Like even the Singapore Wealth Fund, as I mentioned, they lost in 1 year $174 billion. No?
Mm. Paano pala yung ano, paano yung dynamics between the board of the different GOCCs or government financial institutions at saka doon sa proposed Maharlika Wealth Fund Corporation? Kasi meron ng sariling investment portfolios yung iba't ibang GFIs na hinihingi nila ng equity, di ba? Tapos
Yeah.
itong korporasyon na itatayo, gagamitin din yung mga makukuha nila from the different GFIs. I mean, how do those two boards relate?
Well, I'm sure that the boards of the GFIs will not be very happy about it because, they will lose control over the funds that will be invested in the Maharlika because the Maharlika fund will have its own board and
Mm-mm.
they claim they will have independent directors, etc., etc. But, it will definitely impact the boards of the GFIs. They will have less to invest and they have less to fulfill their mandates.
Mm. Pero nga, the fact na ang nagsusulong nito mismo, yung House Speaker, tas yung anak ng presidente, and then the president was mentioned in news reports as somehow green-lighted this project, mayroon ng go
Yeah,
signal
the
niya. I mean,
question
it's
is
very,
why are they railroading this bill? What is the rush? I mean, you start wondering what is behind all of this, diba?
what do you think?
Shouldn't it be studied very carefully? Shouldn't it be discussed openly? Why are they rushing it so quickly? Why? I mean, I have some, concerns about that.
Mm. And for some reason, mismong ano no, kapatid ng presidente, meron siyang reservations no si Senator Amy Marcos regarding this, specifically with the use of pension funds. With the use of pension funds to actually get this started.
She
What do you make of
probably
that?
is aware. She probably is aware of that Supreme Court decision that will not allow them to use pension fund money to benefit the general public. It is, as mentioned earlier, intended only for the benefit of the members of the SSS and the GSIS.
Mm. Yung kanina, I saw a report where the finance secretary and former BSP governor Ben Diokno was quoted as saying na meron naman daw tayong too much gross international reserves. So basically, meron pwedeng ilagak on the part of BSP doon sa Maharlika Wealth Fund. What do you make of this? Is this prudent to do
Well,
this at
I
this
don't know
time?
what he means by too much international reserves. When you compare our international reserves to the other central banks, I don't think we can say that we have excessive international reserves. We need precisely the international reserves to be able to maintain the price stability as well as the stability of our currency.
Mm.
So I also agree with Governor Philip Medalla that we cannot afford to give away the international reserves of the BSP.
Mm. Yung idea naman na ano, sinasabi rin ni Congressman Sandro Marcos, masyado na politicize yung issue at actually hindi naman to bago. Pero nga, by its very nature, it's political din also because of the people pushing for it and the context that we are in now,
Yeah,
under which this is being pushed. Is there really a way to depoliticize this? Kasi kahit nandun sa proposed law, na maging independent yung Maharlika Wealth Fund Corporation, ang isa sa mga safeguards na binabanggit nila doon, ang mamumuno raw ng board, yung presidente mismo ng Pilipinas eh. And that in itself can make it political.
yeah,
What do you
yeah.
think?
But I think more important, they should ask the very basic question first. I mean, answer the basic question: where will they get the money? Because as I said, usually in creating these sovereign wealth funds, it is excess funds that are being invested by the different countries into a um, sovereign wealth fund. We do not have such excess funds. We're in fact borrowing so much money, and I don't think we can afford to get the money from the GFIs who are supposed to accomplish certain mandates under their charters.
Mm-mm.
You deprive them of that money because they are required to invest it in the sovereign wealth fund. Then they are not able to accomplish their mandates. Who's going to answer to the Filipino people for that?
Mm-mm.
The people who
Pero
took away the money from them?
yeah, okay. Kaya understandably maraming affected dito lalo nang pinag-uusapan yung yung paglalagak ng pondo or pension fund coming from SSS and GSIS. Kasi in
Yeah,
itself talagang worried na ngayon mga tao sa actuarial life nitong SSS in particular. Tapos ilalagak pa yung pondo dito sa isang wealth fund supposedly na mukhang hindi naman siya wealth fund strictly speaking, no? Kasi yung conditions are not there, tama ba?
yeah, correct.
Mm.
But
Pero,
as you mentioned, the actuarial life of both the SSS and the GSIS are in fact below the standard, say around 70 years.
ilang
Their
years ba
their
yung
actuarial life are probably about 40, 42 years. So, they should not precisely um, adversely impact further the actuarial life of those two pension funds by taking money away from them, from
Mm.
SSS and GSIS.
Okay. Tapos over the weekend, yung mga concerns din dito, kinumpara yung idea ng pagtataguyod ng isang Maharlika Wealth Fund. Baka raw mangyari sa atin nangyari sa Malaysia, no? Yung sa IMDb issue. And then eventually naglabas ng talking points or clarification si Congressman Joey Salceda. He was claiming he heads the technical working group studying this proposed law. Meron siya mga binanggit na mga safeguards. Isa-isahin po natin, no, kung talagang may tuturong silang safeguards. Number one, yung sinasabi niyan, chairman of the board, as we mentioned earlier, si President Marcos mismo pag natuloy ito. And then the head of the
Oh,
largest founding GFI.
who was the
Mm,
chairman of the board of 1MDB? Wasn't
mm.
that Razak himself? Oh,
So
precisely. That's why he was able to take money away and put it into his private account.
but in the Philippine
You know,
context, is that safeguard enough or not necessarily?
no, precisely the one who had power. Who would question Razak when Razak puts money into his own pocket? The same thing. If you have the president running, he could very easily do that, and who's gonna question him?
Ang claim naman ni Congressman Salceda, the fund is created by law, governed by the country's largest GFIs, and overseen by Congress. Tapos meron pang advisory board composed of the economic managers and is covered by BSP regulations. Are they safeguards enough?
Why were there, you know, corruption cases in the past involving GFIs, PNB, DBP, and so forth, even
Mm,
SSS and GSIS. So that's not, safeguards enough. I mean, it's not enough to say just because there are laws and precisely they violated the laws. They violated all the prudential limits that were set, uh, and they got away with it, di ba?
mm. Oo. May
So,
nagtatanong,
that's
oo.
the same thing. Huh?
May nagtatanong na isang viewer, no? Bakit daw SSS, GSIS, ano bang isa? DBP, tsaka Land Bank of the Philippines. Hindi ko rin alam eh. Bakit siya
Now,
napakikialaman? Tinatanong ng isang viewer po natin, bakit kukunin yung initial funding or equity from SSS,
kasi sila may
GSIS?
pera.
Oo nga
Sila
eh,
may
pero,
pera. Pero yung
pero
pera
nakakatakot eh.
is meant for the benefit of the members of the SSS and GSIS. And then in the case of Land Bank and DBP, the funds are precisely to fund agricultural financing in the case of Land Bank. In the case of DBP, it's to fund industrial projects, etc., development projects. No? So
Mm.
that's why those funds should not be touched for this Maharlika fund.
Ito sir, let's answer this kasi this is a very real concern ng
Oh,
mga contributors ng ano sa SSS. Yung mga lahat tayo, miyembro din dahil nagtrabaho tayo sa private din. Sabi niya, question po, my husband voluntarily contributes to SSS. We're scared to continue doing so because of Maharlika. Is it wise to continue contributing? He has 10 more years till he turns 60. Ano pong sagot niyo sa mga ganyang
well,
questions?
at this point, I would still suggest that they continue because the moment they stop, then they will not be able to benefit to realize the benefits if they stop contributing. No,
Yeah.
because they have to have a minimum number of contributions to be eligible for pension. Kasi hindi pa
Mm.
naman final itong decision sa Maharlika. It's in fact being
Mm.
questioned and so
Bill pa
on.
lang siya.
So they should not stop the contribution at this time. But
Mm.
you can understand why members will be very concerned about continuing their contribution pag nakita nila precisely kukunin lang ng gobyerno at ilalagay yung pera nila sa Maharlika Fund. Well,
Mm.
that's gonna be the result. The members will be very reluctant to continue their contribution. So the SSS and the GSIS may in fact be facing huge liquidity problem in the future if that happens when the
At
members stop contributing.
wag naman po, wag naman po.
Yeah, sana
Tuloy
nga
lang muna
naman.
yung mga members, tuloy lang. Nasa ano pa lang naman to, discussion phase,
Yeah.
public discourse, yeah. Ito, yung sinasabi ni Congressman Salceda na another safeguard is a risk management unit is constituted in the fund's charter. The fund will continue to be subject to the risk weighing and capital adequacy regulations of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas as an exemption from regulation by the BSP was not made. So hindi natuloy yung exemption. 'Di ba yun ang unang proposal no? Marami natakot eh. Ang dami exemptions na nilalagay. Oo. Parang hindi masyado masisinaga ng araw. Pero yun nga, does this somehow calm your nerves regarding this?
No, because remember, PNB, DBP, those, in the past, during the first Marcos administration, they had those risk management units. They were supposed to have follow rules and regulate. What happened when they funded a lot of the projects of the cronies? What happened to those projects? Many of them failed, and they could not pay back. What happened? PNB and DBP were affected. Remember, when the government had to bail out the two banks because they lost huge amounts of money.
Mm. Pero down the line, assuming na magkaroon tayo ng surplus na, no? And we are in a better condition, we can go for this, a sovereign wealth fund.
Well, if we have the excess funds, yes, why not? But I think what they should do now is really strengthen the GFIs, the land bank, and they're doing well, and strengthen them further to precisely accomplish their mandates. SSS, GSIS, if they continue to collect from the members, they're able to, then they can invest even more. And they have already been investing not just in member loans, but they have also funded some industrial companies. They've put in longer term money, but they have been very cautious and very conscious of their responsibility in managing those funds of members to ensure that the risks that they take are manageable risks. No,
Mm.
So they should strengthen these GFIs, these current GFIs, and let them do the investing. Bakit? Why do you still have to set up a Maharlika Fund? How many countries have set up a sovereign wealth? Not that many countries, you know. So you do
Yung may
not
mga
have
excess
to have
funds
one.
lang. Mm.
It's only
Pero
countries precisely that have the excess funds that should do that. No.
yun nga eh. I'm looking for something positive out of this. Na technically pwede namang meron, no? Pero it's very risky at this stage. Tsaka tama ba? Parang lumalabas dito, they're going to centralize and pool resources from the different GFIs uh, under the management of a supposedly independent company, yung Maharlika Wealth Fund Corporation, no? Pero tuloy pa rin yung ano, yung investments ng mga separate GFIs. Pero somehow there's a centralization effort on the part of the government. Tama ba?
Because they will invest independently. So once GSIS and SSS funds are placed in the Maharlika Fund, the GSIS board, the SSS commission, they have no more say in that. So in other words, they will just be like a stockholder,
Yun
and
nga.
and they will just rely on the returns that they make on that money that's invested in the Maharlika Fund.
Yun nga. Parang pinagsama-sama yung mga resources nila tapos na magmamanage yung isang korporasyon na bago na pinamumunuan ng presidente ng Pilipinas. Yun nga, ba't hindi na lang pabayaan yung kanya-kanyang GFIs to do their own thing?
Exactly. And they have the specific mandates to fulfill. Once you put the money in the Maharlika Fund, how do they fulfill their mandates? SSS, GSIS, and Land Bank and DBP.
Mm. Dito so far, are you satisfied with the public discourse that is going on here? Kasi nga sinasabi ng iba, baka naman trust issues lang ang meron dito dahil, alam nyo na, dahil ayaw sa mga Marcoses. Do you also see it that way, that this is primarily
They
or
they
a
they
big
were
part of it
supposed to
trust
have
issues?
Christian. They were supposed to have a public hearing today. uh, we were asking who were invited to the public hearing. Makati Business was not invited, MAP was not invited, Phoenix was not invited, the FEF, the Foundation of Economic Freedom was not. So we were wondering who were invited to the hearing, because we
Sino
were
nga ba?
asking everyone in who were invited, none of us. So we're just wondering, kasi siguro they look at us as opposing the idea. So hindi na kami
Mm.
inimbita, no?
But that is supposed to be
Is that
part of
public
the...
discourse? Is that
Oh,
public consultation?
and that is the spirit of legislation, 'di ba? Yung public hearing dapat
Yeah,
all voices will be heard.
exactly.
Incidentally, naglabas ng joint statement. Yan yung binanggit yung mga grupo kanina, including the Management Association of the Philippines, and they're very very concerned about the proposed Maharlika Wealth
Yes,
Fund.
exactly.
Mm. Yung precisely the same arguments that we have been talking about right now, no? Over the
Yeah.
past 30 minutes. Nga pala, yung
I think it's
yung
a very
pangalan.
good statement, Christian,
Mm.
precisely, that I hope the authors of the bill will read and try to digest. No, I hope they will read it. No.
How about the idea of the idea behind the name? Anong tingin niyo ron? Maharlika.
Well, they could have chosen probably a better name. But anyway, that's beside the point. I think the more important thing, what is the basic reason for setting up a wealth fund? And as we said, a sovereign wealth fund is created when you have excess funds, and we do not have excess funds. I mean, it's very clear.
Mm-mm. The conditions for the establishment of one are just not there. No?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Okay. O sige, maraming salamat po, former Central
Walang
Bank
anuman.
Governor Jose Cuisia Jr. Siya rin po yung dating ambassador natin sa Washington. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us
Thank
tonight.
you. My pleasure, Christian.
Thank,
Thank you.
thank you po.
Bye.
Ano, mas lumiwanag ba sa inyo o mas nainis kayo? Mabuti po na nagkakaroon ng ganitong discussions, nagkakaroon ng ganitong exchanges in a public forum like this, on social media, on the different social media platforms. Kasi alam nyo po, pera natin yung gagalawin dito, no? Tingnan niyo yung distribution, no? Although, alam ko may update kasi unang proposal na 250 billion pesos a startup fund for the Maharlika Wealth Fund. Tapos manggagaling yung pondo from GSIS, SSS, Land Bank, um, Development Bank of the Philippines, National Government, tapos BSP, PAGCOR, tapos General Appropriations Act. In short, pera po natin yan. Yung pinag-uusapan dito. And naturally, nandun yung trust issues. Di ba? At marami talagang hindi bumibili rin sa argument na yung presidente na nga yung mismong mamumuno ng proposed Maharlika Wealth Fund Corporation. Ano pang problema nyo? Hindi po natin masisisi yung mga taong mas lalong natatakot or just as concerned who do not necessarily see that as a safeguard kasi nga because of the baggage of the family. And ang maganda po kasi rito, talagang dapat kayo lahat tumutok dito. Hindi lang po yung mga dahil nagbabayad tayo ng contribution sa SSS o sa GSIS kasi pera po natin yung pinag-uusapan dito. At paano po kung ma-mismanage yung pondo? Kasi yung ganyan mga safeguards sa binabanggit ni Congressman Salceda, maganda yan on paper Pero kahit sabihin nila na hindi naman dapat pinopoliticize yung issue. Alam niyo po, napakadaling ipoliticize talaga ng issue for better or for worse, no? At hindi naman po basta-basta nagpo-politicize lang dyan yung mga oppositor o hindi sumasang-ayon dun sa Maharlika Wealth Fund. Kanina nga, di ba, before we started this episode, sabi ko, buksan natin yung isip natin, baka naman merong magandang pwede maidulot dito. Siyempre, nandun yung kagandahan na pwedeng kumita, pwedeng mas lumago yung kita ng pamahalaan dito at madala sa iba't ibang mga proyekto na pwedeng makatulong directly sa ating mga kababayan. Pero the risks are there and perhaps they're very high, especially when you talk about pooling all these resources coming from the different government financial institutions. At ang nakakatakot nga ron, contributions natin sa SSS tapos sa GSIS kasama ron sa gagamitin para dito sa sa ida-diversify na investments daw. Talagang meron pong trust issues and you cannot blame people for having that. Kasi nga, alam naman natin yung mismo mga botante na nga nagsabi na laganap ang korupsyon and hindi natin masisisi. Again, hindi ko po sinasabi na nanakawin yung pera dito. Ang sinasabi ko lang dito, naturally, nandun po yung agam-agam, nandun po yung takot, nandun yung fears ng mga tao na baka po mawaldas, maibulsa, o mapunta sa walang kapararakan yung pondo kasi napakalaking pera po nito. Kaya huwag niyo pong mamasamain kung talagang marami pong nagre-raise ng concerns regarding this, marami pong bumabanat ng social media kasi ito po yung paraan ng mga Pilipino, nating lahat, para po maiparating yung ating sentimiento dito po sa napakalaking proyekto na ito. At hindi porke meron popular mandate ang kasalukuyang administrasyon at hawak nila yung Kongreso ay in particular the House of Representatives, tayo na lang. Hindi, sige, take my money, gamitin nyo na kasi may tiwala kami. Hindi pwedeng ganon, no? Again, kahit sino po nakaupo, kahit sino pa yan, kung merong ganitong plano, dapat po hihimayin, pag-uusapang mabuti. Ayan. Sabi ni CBB, yung mga trolls wala raw trust issues. Ewan ko sa inyo. Pero dapat kayo mismo nagtatanong, no? Kasi pera nyo rin kasama sa gagamitin dyan no? So, may mga nagjo-joke nga kanina dito, ba't hindi na nila gamitin yung Talyana Gold? Di ba hindi naman daw totoo yung Talyana Gold? Meron ba? Kung meron, sabihin nyo, baka pwedeng gamitin dito. Pero alam ko wala di ba? Ba't marami ba naniwala during the campaign? Nagtatanong lang po. Okay. Nga pala, gusto kong mag-shoutout doon sa mga nagpabanggit ng last episode, no? Si Nico Balbedina, yan. Kasama ko po siya na simula, no? Siya yung tumutulong sa atin initially nung weekly recorded podcast pa ito. Ayan. Sabi niya, yung papa raw niya, laging nanonood. Minsan pinapadala pa sa kanya yung mga videos. Yun, tayo nag-edit, mas tinatanong kung napanood ko na, haha, sabi niya. Ayan, binabati po natin yung father ni Nico, si Mr. Jason Balbidina from Kasiguran, Sorsogon. Magandang gabi po and thank you for supporting our channel. Maraming salamat po. Hindi ko alam kung nabanggit ko na itong susunod, no? Last episode. Pero ulitin ko na rin, baka nagkamali ako, no? Si Miss Linda Fernando, sabi niya, shoutout daw. She's getting ready for work. 7:31 a.m. daw kung nasaan siya. Hindi ko na alam kung nasaan to, no? Mga reverse, no? Baka nasa US, East Coast. Eto, may isang nag-message naman, si Aisha Mapa. Isang araw, sabi niya, I am a Marcos loyalist but I do watch your channel as you give fair commentaries on PBBM's administration compared to some DDS vloggers. Congratulations, you deserve it. Well, maraming salamat po kung totoong loyalist kayo at ganito yung pagtingin nyo, no? Kasi naghahanap din naman tayo ng tulad ng binabanggit ko when we started this live online program, sinasabi ko naman na, tsaka nung natapos na election, no, hindi naman pwedeng titingnan nyo lang lagi maghahanap ng butas na lahat ng gawin lagi mali, no? Tingnan natin. Kasi kung ano mangyari sa gobyerno ngayon, for better or for worse, tatamaan tayo, no? Apektado tayo. Hindi lang po yung bumoto sa nanalo, kundi po lahat ng Pilipino affected. Kaya nga importante maging mapanuri tayo, especially in this case, yung Maharlika Wealth Fund. Kasi pera po yung pinag-uusapan dito. No? Kaya nyo makialam kung talagang ang attitude nyo, just take my money, kawawa po yung bansa natin. No? Mahaba yung comment ni Miriam Luis. No? Maganda yung sinasabi niya. Ayan, pa-flash natin. Doon kalahati ng mukha ko natakpan. Ano ba to? Gamitin na lang yung salary ng mga trolls. Okay. Kayo talaga, mga pilyo kayo. Ayan. Nagalit ulit sa inyo si Eric. Pink Lawans, Este Misery Loves Company. Ayan. Curious tuloy ako. Gusto ko ma-meet si Eric. No? Kung totoong tao si Eric, no? To be fair to him, totoong tao si Eric. Talagang loyalista lang. Ayan. Pero Eric, magtanong ka kasi pera mo rin naman kung sakaling gagamitin dyan. No? So, wag naman yung basta take my money. Hindi porke gusto mo yung politiko, bibigay mo na. And I hope yung mga, yung mga anti-Marcos and pro-Aquino, pro-Lenny, kung sakaling ang presidente, kunwari lang in an alternate universe, ay hindi si President Marcos, kunwari yung kandidato niya naman yung nalo at nag-suggest na magtayo ng ganitong wealth fund, dapat magtanong din kayo. Hindi naman take my money attitude lang lagi. Yan, importante po yan. Okay? So, yun. Okay na ba tayo? Maraming salamat po sa inyo. Huwag kayo magmurahan, Sunny, ha? Sunny Win. Huwag kayo magmumura, huwag ganun, ha? Basta bantayan niyo po yung pondo nito kasi napakalaking pera po yung pinag-uusapan dito. At sana hindi lang po yung wealth fund ang bantayan nyo, no? Hindi ko sure. Tapos na ba yung BICAM, yung Bicameral Conference Committee sa proposed 2023 national budget? Alam nyo, mas malaking pera yung pinag-uusapan dyan at dapat dyan tutukan natin. Yung nga sana maging maging goals natin, maging part ng goals natin in the future. Bilang mga ordinaryong Pilipino, mas pag-aralan po natin yung proseso ng pagsasabatas ng pambansang budget ng Pilipinas. Intindihin po natin yung proseso pasikot-sikot para hindi po mabubulsa, mawawaldas o masasayang sayang tsaka waldas, pareho lang yan. Parang Jesus Escuderos Tesoros yan. Same lang yan. Para hindi po mawaldas yung ating pera. Dahil pera po natin yung pinag-uusapan yan. Okay. Maraming salamat po for joining us. Magkita-kita po tayo sa Wednesday for another episode of Facts First. Dun po sa mga nakikinig sa podcast, hi po sa inyo kung ano mang ginagawa nyo. Nagluluto, naglalaba, nagka-car wash, walking the dog. This is playing in the background, I suppose. Maraming salamat po. And sana po patuloy po yung pagsuportang ibigay, yung pagsuporta niyo po dito sa ating ginagawang independent journalism. Maraming salamat po at magandang gabi at magandang araw doon po sa mga nakikinig sa podcast.